Now, I know what some of you are thinking, and sadly, no, this is not the same one as before. And of course, if some of you that did not know, there is a giant elephant in the room that will be addressed later on in the video. I'm Rio Gion, and this is Rio Gion Keyboards. I wouldn't really say that this is a fully decked out board, but it does have a very gamery vibe to it. It's definitely not a office friendly kind of board with the edges on the sides and how the layers of the boards are being set up, and the braided cable is definitely screams pro gamer. The board have some really nice rubber feet that keep the board nice and planted, which I like, and the flip up feet are also coated with rubber, which is absolutely beautiful, because then you can have the board either heightened or lowered and it will still be planted, which is very nice to have. Also, the cable is braided. Not really my particular taste of color choices, but braided nonetheless, and with gold plated USB, and also cable management Velcro, which is absolutely beautiful. The keycaps for this particular board is once again just regular ABS, and it is actually quite smooth. It is very smooth, and it can be downright slippery at times, which is either good or bad, but overall it's really not anything special here. It's once again typical ABS and very smooth and definitely very slippery. The wrist rest, or should I say palm rest in my particular case because I have big hands, is actually quite nice. I would not say comfortable because once again it's made with real hard plastic. It's not comfortable. It's nice on the short run. The longer you rest your wrist, or rest your palm in my case, the more uncomfortable it will become. And it will become very uncomfortable. I really like how the USB pass-through is in the back of the board and not on the side or at some weird angle where cables just doesn't seem to make sense, which is a very nice touch. Where the cables is just gonna slide right in, or my attempt to slide it right in, my poor attempt to slide it right in. And this is how it's gonna look like. It's very neatly organized. On the flip side, there is a software that is available to customize the lighting even further, because as you can see from the lighting demonstration before, you are limited to the amount of colors that is preset on the keyboard if you were to never ever install the software. If you choose to install the software, that's when you really get that 16.8 million colors. If you were not to, then obviously you wouldn't get those colors, but you still be able to set all of the lighting options that you were before, and you can also set polling rate and response time. So the giant elephant that was in the room that you guys may or may not have known of is that the keyboard before, it might have just been the response rate. It was set default at 8 milliseconds, and that could be the reason why the board did not work. But I'd instinctively remember that I installed and updated the software and I changed the response time, and it still did not work. So when this keyboard works, it's actually really great because you get a lot of options with your lightings, and for the price that it is now, that's actually a pretty good deal, considering the level of customizability that you get. And you only get up to 6 different profiles, which for most people it seems to be adequate. But then again, there are those hardcore that want infinite amount of profiles, or those that are like me that likes to test the limit of how many profiles you can make before you go insane. That's always fun to do. But besides that, the software is very user friendly and it's basic. That's probably why it's user friendly, because the software is actually very basic. You get the lighting effects and you get macro management, which every single key is macroable. I'm not saying this with very much confidence, but every single key is macroable. Please comment down below if I'm wrong, but every single key is macroable. I feel like the more I repeat this, the less confident I am. But every single key every single key is macroable. The potential deal breaker, besides it not being so reliable, is that it uses Kale Brown. Now, that can either be a deal breaker or not. My personal experience using Kale Browns is that in this particular keyboard, it feels alright. It doesn't feel as good as the Ultemu Browns of the Azio board, nor is it as good as the Cherry MX Browns on the G scale, but it's not like the Kale Brown of the Poseidon. Because I distinctively remember that the Poseidon Kale Brown feels especially cheap. This one doesn't feel as cheap, and I guess I lucked out with this one because every single key is consistent, believe it or not. Every single switch is consistent. Just to get the issue cleared out, you can actually macro every single key, which is awesome. And the most important thing about this particular keyboard when it comes to gaming is that the Kale Brown is once again just the jack of all trades, the master of none. And the switch type itself is alright for gaming. It's also alright for typing, as I said before. And a lot of people keep saying that it's a little bit stiffer, which I don't really think that it's that much stiffer than regular Cherry MX Brown. But this is before me making the comparison with the G scale coming up sometime soon. Anyways, in terms of gaming, the actual software itself is nice, and because you get to macro every single key, it is pretty alright for MMO gamers. But then again, if you play MMO a lot, I highly recommend getting a board with a dedicated bank of macro keys, because that is always, and I mean it when I say it, that is always better than having to juggle between keys of which one should I macro, which one should I not macro, and things like that. Now when it comes to FPS, of course, let's be honest here, FPS really matters with the mouse. With the keyboard, as long as you're not getting a switch that is super stiff, it's either a brown or a red, you should be fine playing FPS, but it's the mouse that's your main concern with FPS. With RTS, the brown switch is, once again, it's alright. And I would say for RTS, you would want to consider something of either a red switch if you want to double tap a lot, or a black switch if you do not want to make too many mistakes. It really depends on your playing style. But it's either red or black if you're going to go with RTS. Overall, this particular keyboard, when it works, for $99 with all of the special lighting effects, and the wrist rest is magnetic, it kind of ticks off almost all of the boxes. And the only downside is that it's Kale Brown instead of Cherry MX Brown. And I do understand that could be a potential deal breaker, but let's be honest, compare this to the Azio. This is a lot better. For much less too. Yeah, it's $40 cheaper than the Azio at retail price. Of course, if you can find it cheaper, yeah, more power to you. But overall, I say for 99 bucks, that's a gamble I am willing to take. So, worst comes to worst, hold on to that receipt, because you might be returning it.